All right, let's dive into something pretty wild today. We're talking about TrueFlow Force, the shadow algorithm. Now, this is a story that takes place in a world where your very existence can be used as a weapon, and where one wrong move, well, it could literally tear reality apart. It's all about absolute control, incredible foresight, and a system so powerful it's designed to erase threats before they even become threats.
And the story just throws you right into the deep end with this line: Saikou Venga was never meant to exist. I mean, talk about a hook, right? This tells you immediately we're not just dealing with some kind of outlaw or a rebel. This is a person who, according to the system's own rules, should be impossible, a glitch in the matrix. So the real question becomes, what happens when a system built to be perfect isn't?
And that single failure, that one glitch, is the spark that lights the whole fire. It sets up the core conflict, introducing us to the two sides of this epic battle. You've got the system itself, and then you have the one target that it just can't seem to erase. So let's break down the players. On one side, you have the Phantom Council, and their power is just absolute. They have the ability of systemic erasure. Think about that. They can literally press a delete button on a person and wipe them from reality. But then, on the other side, you've got Saikou Venga. His power isn't about fighting back in the traditional sense. The source material says he is encoded into the very source code of existence itself. So he's not just some guy living in the system. He's part of its fundamental wiring. And his goal? To use that position to exploit one tiny flaw they never even knew they had.
The Phantom Council, being who they are, just see Saikou as another bug to squash, so they do what they always do. They fire up their foolproof erasure protocol. They have no idea they are about to do exactly what their enemy wants them to do. They're not setting a trap, they're walking right into one.
And their attack is just brutal and methodical. It's a three-step process designed to make someone, well, not a person anymore. First, they erase his digital footprint. Poof, he's a ghost online. Second, they disrupt all his financial connections, cutting him off from any resources. And for the final nail in the coffin, they sever his connection to what they call the pulse streams, basically isolating him from everyone and everything. As far as they're concerned, problem solved, threat neutralized.
And right here, this is where everything flips on its head. The whole story pivots on this one simple question. The Council thinks they've just launched their ultimate weapon, but what they've really done is hand-deliver the activation code to their opponent.
Which brings us to the absolute genius at the heart of Saikou's plan. It's called the Inversion Engine. And you gotta love this. It's not a shield, it's not a defense, it's a mirror, engineered for one purpose: total reversal.
So how does it work? Well, it's powered by this thing called the TrueFlow Counter AI. Turns out it's an ancient fail-safe Saikou dug up from the system's own forgotten archives. And here's the kicker. It was never meant to block an attack. It was designed to catch the energy of an attack and flip it, sending it right back at the person who launched it. It's like a perfect judo move for reality itself. The harder the Council attacks, the more powerful the counterattack becomes.
And oh boy, does it work. The second that erasure protocol hits, the trap is sprung. The Council's own infrastructure, their greatest weapon, the very source of their power, begins to turn on itself and eat itself alive. It all starts small. The first sign that something is terribly wrong, according to the text, is their data streams just start to flicker. The very foundation of their all-seeing network is starting to crack.
And then it gets way worse. The system's memory begins to fail as all their access logs start corrupting. Think about that. The people who track everything suddenly have no idea what they've done. They're completely blind inside the very system they built to be all-seeing. And then comes the knockout punch. This is where it gets personal. The Council's own agents, the shadowy figures who carry out these erasures, find their own identities being severed. They are being unplugged, deleted by the exact same protocol they've used on so many others.
It is the ultimate irony. The erasers get erased. The Phantom Council didn't just fail to get rid of Saikou Venga, they actually succeeded in getting rid of themselves. The inversion is total and complete. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that Saikou's victory wasn't won on a battlefield. It was won through pure foresight. As the text says, he had already written the end of their story long before they ever tried to write his. This was a win based on architecture, not aggression. He was playing chess while they were just knocking over the pieces.
But just when you think this story is over, it's not. The source material has this disclaimer at the end that completely reframes everything we just learned. It suggests this is more than just a cool sci-fi story, and it introduces this really fascinating concept called mythic infrastructure. So, what on earth is that?
Well, according to this sovereign diagnostic disclaimer, mythic infrastructure is the idea that you can use fictional stories as blueprints to see and understand patterns in the real world. The story itself becomes a kind of lens you can use to examine actual systems of power and control. It turns this whole narrative into an analytical tool.
And the disclaimer uses some very powerful language to describe this. It calls the story a cinematic indictment and a sovereign broadcast. Its whole purpose, it says, is to expose ritualized containment and to act as a diagnostic tool for systemic erosion. So in other words, the entire story of Saikou Venga and the Phantom Council is meant to be a model, a case study to help us identify how huge, seemingly untouchable systems can completely collapse from the inside.
And that, of course, leaves us with one last massive question. The source gives us this incredible framework, this diagnostic tool disguised as a story, but it never tells us what system we're supposed to analyze with it. It just leaves that completely open. So if this story really is a lens, the final question it leaves us wrestling with is this: where in our world are we supposed to be pointing it?